Welcome back to this Blender for Beginners tutorial series. We left off in our last video with having made our window for our scene. That is the last complex object for the scene before we start assembling everything in the room which we're about to create. Before we get to that stage though, there are a few things that we have to finish with the vanity, which is kind of our key object in the scene. So what we'll do is we'll hide our window, enable our vanity layer and our reference layer, and you'll notice that in the vanity we never put a sink in there, and we have a faucet that is down here below the sink, not doing much good. So we shall start by taking one of these knobs, selecting the faucet and pressing Ctrl P to parent to object. That way, when we move around this faucet, they will follow. So let's go to front view, and we're going to move this faucet on the X to 0. And then we can move it on the Z until it rests just on the surface. About like that, and it should sit close to the back like so, and we need a sink. In order to make the sink, we're going to select the countertop here, and we're going into local view and hit tab, and you'll see that we have this area in the middle that is it's empty. So what we're going to do is fill that. So we'll grab our edge loop, press fill, and hit edge slide to take that all the way to the outer edge. Let's select all vertices and merge by distance. There is also another option. Rather than using merge by distance all the time, there's an auto merge button right here, so that whenever any vertices go on top of each other, they become one vertice or vertex. I do not generally like to use that, but if you'd like to do that, you can turn that on rather than typing it every time. So now that we just have 6 sides of a 3-dimensional countertop, let's go into top view and edit mode, and we'll do 2 cuts right there and 2 cuts right here. Now let's turn our reference back on, and when we're looking from the front, we can grab these edges and move them to about what we'll scale them on the X till they meet about the outside edges of that sink. And that's all we needed our reference for, so we'll turn that back off. We'll go to top view and take this back edge of the sink, and we're going to move that on the Y to about there. And this will move on the Y to about there. So now we have a rather square looking sink, and what we can do is go back into local view so that this is the only thing we're looking at. Hit 3, and that puts us in face select mode, and when we select the top and bottom, we can use our bridge tool to actually eliminate those while connecting the open geometry that it would leave. So if we go Control E, loop, it puts the hole straight through, which is rather nice. Let's take this loop right here, or it's not really a loop, but we'll make it one. We're going to say Shift D to duplicate and P to separate it. And we'll select it in object mode, tab, select all the edges, and let's extrude down on the Z to a place that looks like a good depth. Now it's interesting, we had a solidify modifier on here that we were no longer using, it looks like. Yes, so let's remove that, and we'll remove it from our sync object as well, or rather we'll turn it off on our sync object, because we will be turning it back on. And now let's take the base of our sink, hit F to fill, and we have a sink. Now let's turn on our normals, or our face orientation, and we'll see that this sink has faces going different directions. So go into edit mode, select all faces, shift N to recalculate normals, and we're going to say inside should be the normals. It has not recalculated correctly, so let's try it again. This does not always work, by the way, but there it is. I may not have had all the faces selected in the first time around. So let's take that solidify, and it looks like it's got the option to only solidify the edges turned on. So let's go turn off only rim. There we go, and turn off our face orientation. There we have it. Let's make this, so let's select all faces, and we're going to do a scale by normals, which is Alt S, and we're going to scale this up a little bit so that it is we have a little bit of a overhang from the countertop to the sink, because that is realistically what would be there. If you want, you can punch holes in here, add geometry if you want, but I don't think that is necessary since no one's going to be seeing in the sink, so it's not needed for our scene. Let's come out here, and now it looks like we have a more complete vanity and sink. So with that out of the way, let's go to front mode, front view, and let's go to the view tab. Do you remember we can move the cursor around with the 3D cursor options here, and we're just going to move that up here, and we're going to create our sink. So Shift A, I'm sorry, our mirror. We have a sink. So let's have that face the view, and what we're going to do is change the dimensions to 0.7. And you can make the dimensions whatever you want. This is just what I liked, and it's going to be 1 meter high. If you're wondering why the y-axis changed the height of it, that is because when we created this plane, it is facing the view, but when you create a plane, this is always the z-axis facing away from it. So if we Control A, rotation and scale, you'll see that now the X and Y have swapped here. It's become relevant to the world rather than the object. So let's go into this view, and that is the side view. And snap it here because it's going to be on the wall, and this backsplash will meet the wall as well. And let's choose a different matte cap. I like this one just because it's not any particular color, it's just gray. So let's go select the only face that there is, and hit I for inset, and bring it into what looks like a good frame for this mirror. Delete that face, and take all the rest of the faces, extrude them out so that we have a bit of a frame, and then what we'll do is put 3 cuts in here. I had snapping on, so it went to one side. Great, there we go. Now what we can do is take this edge, move it on the Y a little bit, move this on the Y a little bit, but not as much, And let's see if we put a bevel on here and a subdivision surface modifier, let's see if that gives us a good shape. Now we need to mark our edges that we want beveled, and so that needs to change to weight, and so what we'll do is change the bevel weight for the places we want beveled. So we'll start with these because they're the most egregious ones here. There we go. And that will definitely need a bevel. And we'll give this inner circle and this inner circle a bevel as well. That actually looks decent. So let's go into front view again. It's kind of like a picture frame, really. So we may use a mirror modifier on our mirror, believe it or not. So let's bring this over here. Yes, I think we will. So we're going to turn on our snapping, GX, bring it to the exact same spot. We'll do that here as well. That last little bit, we did a little more work than we needed to here. Let's go into wireframe mode, take this and this, delete these vertices, and we will add a mirror modifier. Remember, the mirror modifier always goes first in a stack, unless the parts that are mirroring each other do not meet. Then it really doesn't matter. X and Z. There we go. So how's that look? That should be fine. So we need a reflective pane of glass in the middle. So let's take our cursor and put it to the selected object. Go into edit mode. You know what, let's apply our mirror. Edit mode. Should have done this before the application of the modifier, but oh well. I'm not sure what's going on with Screencast Keys. It seems like a pretty dumpy add-on. It kind of turns on whenever it wants, turns off whenever it wants. So I apologize if we lose it partway through and I don't notice it. Before the Blender 2.8 days, there used to be a built-in Screencast Keys add-on that worked very well. I'm not sure why it was ever dropped. So back in edit mode, Shift A, plane, and we will face the view. Scale that in to just outside the inner edge of the frame. We're going to move this partway into the frame here. We're going to inset a little bit. And let's select everything attached there. Put up our bevel weight all the way. Take this primary face and we'll move it on the Y a little bit. There we have a mirror. So that is that. Now that we've completed kind of our key piece, let's turn on a few of our other small assets, such as our soap and our lamp. So let's take the lamp, for instance. Now, this lamp, we parented everything. I believe we did not. Okay, so let's hide that soap for a moment. Take all of this, select the base, Control P, object. Now everything is parented. Let's get rid of that snapping. And G, Z, things start to come together rather quickly, as you can see here. Once you've got everything made, it's really just a matter of arranging everything. And we're going to adjust how close they are to the wall anyway. Sometimes having some gap there is a good thing because it allows for a little more shadow, a little more contrast, that kind of thing. So let's take our soap. And did we parent things here? Yes, everything is parented together. So let's take this up here. G, Z. Now, as you can see, things are starting to just kind of come together. Put our soap back here, and we'll rotate it ever so slightly. There we go. Starting to look like something, right? We had one other thing that we put over here on this side, and that was the toothbrushes. So let's take our toothbrushes. Did we parent everything appropriately? Yes, we did. So let's go bring that up here. I do not have snapping on. You could do that, but that would be too easy, right? Yeah, you can turn on snapping, and that is probably the better way to line it up with the surface of the vanity top. So we'll rotate things a little bit so that they're not just static, straight-on angles of things. And there we have our vanity. Now, we're going to start putting materials on things, and we're going to make just a handful of materials that will be shared by all these different objects. So before we jump into making the room, I think we're going to start making a few materials so that we can render out just what we see on screen right here, so that you get a handle on rendering and material creation and a little bit of lighting, because this course has been going on for quite a while now and we haven't had any real results to show. So in the next video, we're going to jump into putting some basic materials and lighting in here and making a quick render or two of this little bit of a scene. So I will see you in the next video. Hey guys, if you found this video useful, hit like and consider subscribing to the channel, and you can turn on that notification bell too so that you don't miss future videos. Until next time, I'm Carl with Blender Forge.